I want to tell you a story about a girl and a doll. I know what you're thinking. You've heard this story before. A little girl wants a doll and someone buys it for her, and then the doll goes mental and kills everyone. Well, you're wrong. This is a different kind of story. It happened back in 2009 when I was 16 years old. One day as I was walking home from school, I noticed that a new family had moved into the house at the end of my street. They were young, a married couple, and they had a little daughter who looked like she was around 6 years old. She wore a white dress, white socks, and black shoes. Her hair was long and black, and she was holding a doll in her arms. The doll had a white dress and long black hair as well. In fact, it looked almost exactly like a miniature version of the girl. Every day on the way home from school, I saw the little girl, and she was always sitting there outside of her house, cuddling the doll in her arms and watching me as I passed by. There was something about the way she stared at me and the cold, dark look in her eyes that really unnerved me. At night, I couldn't sleep. I was plagued by the very strange dreams and woke up in cold sweat. I could only remember the dreams, but they all involved the girl with the doll. This went night after night, and the lack of sleep left me exhausted. There was an old lady who lived next door and was very, let's say, weird. She was one of those old women who knows everything about everyone, but she was always eavesdropping and sticking her nose into other people's business. One day as I was walking to school, she grabbed me by the arm and in hushed tones, she said that she had something to tell me. She wanted to talk to me about the family who moved into the house at the end of the street. "You don't want to mess with them," she told me. "They're not good people. I've heard that they're always on the move and never stay anywhere for long. And that daughter of theirs, did you know that she's adopted? She's not right in the head either. I heard rumors that she's the offspring of the devil, and the doll she carries around is not the doll at all, but a demon made of her image." I just rolled my eyes and walked away, dismissing it as a gossip of a crazy old woman. But oh, how silly was I. How I wish I had listened to the warning of the crazy old woman. A few days later, there was a knock on our front door. When I answered it, a young woman was standing there. She was the mother of the little girl with the doll. "Hello," she said. "I'm your neighbor. I'd like to ask you a favor." "Sure," I replied. "What is it?" "Something unexpectedly came up," she said. "I have to go on air, and my husband doesn't get home from work until later. I only be gone for a few hours, but I need someone to take care of my daughter while I'm away. I know it's short notice, but would you take care of her?" "Of course," I said. "What's your daughter's name?" "Lisa," the mother replied. "We need to leave now, so if you don't mind." I followed the woman to her house. I waited while she rushed upstairs. When she returned, she was leading the little girl by the hand. As soon as I saw her, I was taken aback. There was something wrong with her. Her eyes were completely black, like the eyes of the shark, and she was still clenching that wrench doll in her arms. I don't know what it was about the doll that creeped me out so much. Perhaps it was because it looked so much like the little girl, and it was disturbing and uncanny. Before I had a chance to back out, the mother said her goodbyes and then got out in the car and drove away. Without a word, little Lisa reached up and looked at me by the hand. Her skin was ice cold, and the touch and it sent shivers down my spine. "Play with me," she said. We went upstairs to her bedroom, but as soon as I closed the door, I began to feel uneasy. I couldn't detect a strange and unpleasant smell in the room, but I couldn't figure out what it was or where it was coming from. I played with Lisa for about 30 minutes, But then I began to feel a tightness in my chest that broke out into a cold sweat, and my stomach was clattering. I felt like I was going to vomit. "I have to go," I gasped. All of a sudden, Lisa scrambled to her feet and cried out, "No, you're not going to stay with me forever? And we'll play all the time." She stared at me with those cold black eyes. I felt like I was going to faint. I was frightened and wanted to get out of the room, but then I tried to open the door. The handle wouldn't turn. I began rattling it, pulling on it, but it was no use. I ran to the window, tried to open it, but it wouldn't budge. No matter what I tried, I couldn't open it. When I remembered the warning of the old woman and cursed myself for not listening to her, I was trembling with fear, but I decided to recite a prayer. "O Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be my name." As soon as I uttered those words, the little girl let me out of an ear-splitting screech. She screamed so loud that I thought I would go deaf. I had to clasp my hands over my ears, but I never stopped reciting that prayer. "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is on heaven." The girl dropped the doll and it fell to the floor. All of a sudden, it came to life and it came to me, gnashing its teeth and scratching its claws hands like a feral animal. I tried to kick it away, but then jumped on my neck and tried to tear my throat out. I fell backwards on the bed, desperately trying to fight the doll off. It was a terrible struggling. The doll was thrashing back and forth, scraping me and tearing me into clothes every time it got its hands on me and around my neck. It stared. Eventually, I got an upper hand. I grabbed it by the legs and swung it with all my might, smashing its head against the wall, and it hit the wall so hard that it left a dent on the plaster. A crack split the doll's face, and chew and thick black smoke began pouring out. "Give us this day and our daily bread, and forgive us our trespass, as we forget those who trespass against us." The doll laid on the floor, shaking and wrangling, flopping back and forth like a dying fish. The doll had it split wider, and the smoke boiling out. It grew thicker and thicker, and led us not into temptation, but deliver us from all evil. Amen. When I finished reciting the prayer, Lisa was laying in the middle of the room, unconscious, and the doll was little more than a steaming pile of molten plastic, rising from the bubbling on its scrap. Just then, Lisa's mother came home. She ran upstairs and burst into the room, demanding to know what had happened. I tried to explain what I couldn't get the words out. I threw up all over the floor. When Lisa regained conscious, she said that she remembered nothing at all. I looked at her eyes, the darkness was gone, and now they were bright, vibrant shade of blue. 3 years later, when she was 9 years old, Lisa died suddenly. She drank an entire bottle of bleach. She died in tremendous pain, screaming and crying in agony as her organs slowly broke down. The doctors ruled it an accident, but everybody suspected she had taken her own life. Her parents were devastated. Nobody could explain why a girl so young could die in such a way. A week after the funeral, her mother and her father moved out of the house, and it held too much pain and bad memories. As they were going through Lisa's bedroom and packing up her belongings, they found something glued to the back of the mirror, and it was a photo of Lisa and the doll. On the other side, written in a childish scrawl, was a message. "She has returned to us, and for those who answered our call will be damned forever."